You can even own an airplane. If you start going north, you're not gonna make it. I don't care what car you have, what vehicle you own. If you're not going south, right, towards San Diego, you're not gonna make it. When it comes to business and real estate investing or anything else that deals with money, if you don't have clarity where you're going, it's like driving north, even though you want to go to San Diego or to south. So for me, once I really, it's a basic principle, but once I understood that, I started to ask myself questions more often, and I started to try achieving clarity. Where am I going, and why am I going there? Because that allows you to say no to the opportunities that are not great. There are a lot of opportunities that come our way that are good opportunities, and I said yes to a lot of them, and but they were not great opportunities. The opportunities or the vehicles that would take me to my destination cost. So let me give you an example. I came up with this goal, which was a little big for us. I own two businesses: a wood cleaning company, which is local, a print shop, which is in Mississippi, and then I have other projects I work on where I'm paid commission. All it's related to businesses, online marketing. Well, for December, in the middle of November, I made a decision. I want to make $100,000 extra in revenue for both of my businesses, not counting what we regularly make per month. So I already have the numbers right from the past couple of years. So I looked at what we're doing, and then I came up with a plan. I got clarity. I want to make $100,000 extra in revenue. What do I do? So I started having conversations with people that I thought could put me on the path to making 100K extra. Well, one guy came my way from a group I'm part of online, and he's another hood cleaning company owner. He wanted me to do some of his marketing. When I thought about the amount of money I would make from doing the marketing for him, I realized this is not the right type of partnership or deal right now. I could make a few $1,000s in the next year from this business, and I could easily make it. We will still work with them in the future, but because I had clarity about my goal, 100K extra in the next 6 weeks, I said no to that opportunity. And guess what? Another opportunity came my way, which is going to put close to $100,000 in my pocket. It's not going to be paid in December, but it's going to put close to $100,000 in my pocket in the next 2 months. I would not have been able, right, to identify that opportunity if I didn't have clarity about what I want to achieve. Of course, I had about a dozen conversations. It wasn't just those two conversations, but those two were really close to the end goal. And I said no to one that was a good opportunity, but it wasn't great. So clarity beats hustle. So then when I'm thinking of my own goals, my goal is to buy businesses. For me, real estate is just a part of buying businesses. My focus is really buying cash flow through business buying. And I bought a couple, I mean, I invested in a couple, I exited, I built an e-commerce business selling a lot online. So I've done a lot of random things, learned a lot through the process. And I came up with a framework, a mentor of mine helped me develop it to allow me, again, to identify how can I achieve my goal faster without working more. And I'm not against work. I'm not saying don't hustle. There are seasons when you do hustle. I'm not saying be lazy, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just making the point that clarity, right? When you get clarity, it makes life a lot easier. Because I don't know about you, but I always want to jump into every opportunity because everything looks interesting. So that's my problem. Anyway, so this framework helped a lot. Explore versus explore. It's a framework that's using computer programming. If you're not quite sure about what to do, maybe you should focus on exploring. Let's say I want to mine gold. I don't know where the gold is, so I have to explore around. But when you find a load of gold, then you need to stop and exploit that. So how can you apply that to real estate? If you're a beginner or newer, you should probably explore what's the fastest path to achieve my goal, whatever your goal is in real estate. Whether that is buying some homes, Airbnbs, whatever you want to do, you have to have a bit of clarity, right, where you want to go. And then you have to explore different opportunities and think of it as building an experiment machine for yourself. I'm going to give you an example that's not related to business. Maybe this helps a bit more, and then we'll apply it to real estate. Usually, you have levers you can pull. So let's say I want to get healthy. I could work on my sleep. Sleep does impact health a lot. I could work on my diet to get healthier. Diet matters a lot. I could work on my exercise or lack of exercise. I could work on my relationships. Sometimes people are sick and don't feel healthy because they're in bad relationships, right? There's so many different levers you can pull. So imagine an experiment machine. It's in front of you, and you have these different levers, right? Sleep, exercise, diet. Now let's assume I decide to work on diet because that's one of my biggest problems. Well, when it comes to diet, there are a lot of different diets you can pursue based on who you are. And if you talk to a good nutritionist or functional doctor, they will talk about who you are as a person, your blood type, all these different things. So that think of under the lever, you have all these different knobs that you can press. And that's kind of how I think of experimentation in my business. And I'm convinced that if you run enough experiments in one business, you identify the levers in your business, what are the pillars in your business, and then all the knobs under each lever. And then you choose to run experiments, right? You press a specific knob and you run an experiment. Well, I'll give you an example in just a second. When you start thinking of your business that way and you have clarity about where you're going, it's almost impossible to fail. Because if you run enough experiments, and this is what Jeff Bezos has said, the reason we're successful is not because we're smarter than other people. We run more experiments than anyone else. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but even their sales page changes all the time. The changes are minimal. Like you don't really notice them, but I saw it on Amazon, so I would notice them all the time when it's there all the time. So they ran thousands and thousands of experiments, and that's why they're successful. So let's bring it to real estate or any type of business. What are the pillars in your business? You have deal flow, it's a big one, whether you're a beginner or an advanced seller. Um, Capital is probably another one. There are tons of ways, right? Tons of knobs you can press in terms of capital, how you get your money. Um, the operations part, right? All the paperwork and all the stuff that you have to run your business, that's another lever. And then you can come up with more things. Let's take deal flow, and I'll give examples for my business that I think are relevant to yours. If you have deal flow, what matters usually in creating deal flow? The list of people you go after. It doesn't matter what business you have. The list of people you go after, the offer you make. Those are the two most essential items in impacting your deal flow. So then, okay, if my list matters that much. What if I run an experiment and I collect the list in different ways? Let's say I use three different methods to collect the list. I could manually collect my list. I could ask around. I would talk to mentors and make up a list. I could buy a list. There's so many different ways to get a list. And I like the buying part because then you don't have to put all the work into it. So let's assume I buy three different types of lists. And you can think of probably all kinds of ways of what type of list to go after. Um, you can buy three lists and send a small amount of letters or postcards, right, to these lists and see which list gives you the best result. And I always try to run the minimal amount of uh, like I don't want to invest a ton in my experiment. So if I choose a list, I like to send maybe 100 postcards or 200 postcards at a time. In my food cleaning company, we serve commercial kitchens. Restaurant owners have to hire us to clean their food system. What I did is one time I had this fancy postcard design and I sent it to about 500 restaurants. Got no leads from it. No leads whatsoever. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I spent tons of years writing copy for other businesses. Got no response whatsoever. A few months later, I said, you know what? I really think postcards should work for this audience. So we manually just took names of restaurants from Google Maps put it in a spreadsheet, and then we sent a postcard design that was just black and white on color stock that we bought from Office Depot. I own a print shop. I can print anything I want in the print shop, but I just went to Office Depot. Well, I sent my niece to go to Office Depot, buy some cardstock, print the postcards at home, and it was very simple, just black and white text with on cardstock. And she wrote the address on it. We got about 10 to 12 estimates from it in about 3 to 4 jobs. 3 jobs I know for sure. These clients are recurring for me, so it cost me $250, and I made about $2,000 from it. And every 6 months, I get $2,000 from it. So what was the experiment? I needed more clients, right? Getting more clients is one of the pillars in my business. I did the fancy design postcard, and then I did just a ugly postcard design. The ugly postcard design worked. So what do you think I'm gonna do next? I'm not gonna do a fancy design. I'm gonna test a different type of copy on my ugly postcard. So it's a type of experiment. When you're thinking about your own views, if you want to increase deal flow, what can you test? Right? Try different things. Oh, the other thing that I know works for real estate, and I don't buy properties, but I know I have friends or clients who use our print shop. What they said is that if you send 3 or 4 direct mail items to your prospect, you are going to get better results. So don't send the same postcard 4 times. Maybe you send a postcard, a letter, something else, but do it 3 or 4 times. Again, the experiment is what you think of it, right? If you want to work on deal flow, work on the knobs right under deal flow and try different things to see which one is going to pay off. Because when the moment you identify something that works, then you just scale that up. You know, there are a lot of ways to scale something up. Make sense? And I know I jumped from, clarity first, right? The vehicle doesn't matter. It really, the direction matters. The explore versus exploit. When it came to, right, for me, for my business, generating more estimates and more jobs, I tried cold emailing, worked great. I got about $50,000 worth of jobs just from sending cold emails to restaurant owners. I tried the postcards, right? I gave you that example of the fancy versus ugly design. Again, it worked fine because we have to continue doing, and what we like to do is send 50 to 100 postcards, which is very little if you do that. So you can just do 50 and you still get some jobs out of it. I did cold calling, did not work. I went in person, did not work because the owner has to be there. So, right, I tried different things. So you have to test, and then I identify something that works, the postcard. So now it's very easy for me to continue getting generating clients. But that only works for the type of client, right? When the owner is in the restaurant. Now we also serve senior living places, hospitals, anyone who has a commercial kitchen. Those types of clients require a different approach. So I have to design a different experiment for those type of clients. So again, you have to think, who am I going after? Like what type of list? And you have to design a different experiment. It's impossible to follow. Now, in our print shop, what we did, we used direct mail, and I mentioned direct mail because I know it works really well for real estate investors. So that's why I keep going back to direct mail. I know people who are making tons of deals with direct mail. Let's see, and I'll give you this example, and then I'll end with your questions. Um, we use a lumpy mail campaign, meaning we had an envelope with a letter inside and we put an item to make it a little lumpy or heavy. One time I put a poker chip in it and I sent it saying, you should, finding your best, finding a cleaner shouldn't be a gamble, or finding the right printer shouldn't be a gamble. So you can use AI to make the letter sound directly connected to the item you're sending. For good cleaning, I was thinking of sending a flashlight, but then it was too heavy, so I said, "Oh, forget that one." You can think of ideas like that where you put an item in your letter. It makes it heavy, and it It makes people curious. Those work better if you're going after executives, directors of different companies. So that type of activity works better. We used the Lumpy Mail campaign for school districts, and we got about 5 clients out of 60 school districts we went after for our print shop. And that generated close to $10,000 just in the summer. And those are recurring clients. That means $10,000 probably every year, and they will keep adding items that they order from us. 5 out of 60, that's a pretty good conversion rate. And it was the monthly mail. And you know why that was important? Because then we could call them and we said, hey, we sent you this package. Did you get it? It was not a sales call. So guess what? We got patched in to the person who was the right person to talk to. So if you think of it that way, right? We designed an experiment that got us to the right person who could answer our questions and start the communication. And that's what led to all of those clients. So I encourage you, right? Think of the pillars in your business and announce like what are the types of things you can test under that level or pillar, and start designing experiments. But you have to try it and don't give up on it, okay? Don't just run 5 experiments and then give up. You have to continue until you find success. And sometimes you discover that it's not working. I've had that happen where we're generating $3,000 to $4,000 a month selling books on Amazon, and I decided this is not really worth my time. I could make a lot more doing something else, and we shut it down. So sometimes, right, when you do the experiment, it's successful enough, you realize it's not worth doing that thing. So I encourage you to design your experiments instead of running them. I'm pretty sure you would have a much better, um, more successful year if you did. That's good. Any questions? Um,
Yeah, I have a question.
I guess I was just curious about hood cleaning, right? I haven't heard of it before, and I guess you could just go into depth on like what is it and why did you choose it?
Yes, that's a good question. I did not know it existed before I bought it. I found it on This by Sell, which is a good site to find different types of businesses just to get an idea. The seller was trying to sell it. He lived in Southern California and the business is here. He realized he either has to move here to run it or sell it. So he decided to sell it. I bought it because it's a required service. Insurance companies and fire marshals require commercial kitchens to get their hood cleaning done. So I thought, oh, that's a reason to have it compared to other type of cleaning. People say to their cleaners, I don't want you to clean. There's still plenty of cleaning jobs. Talk to Eddie if you don't want to. But I chose it because it was a unique niche specialty type of cleaning that's required. Why did I buy it? Because I wanted to find a local business to partner with my cousin. I knew that he would be a good operator, and I just needed something that has the potential to grow a company. So there are other reasons, but it would take too long to explain. But those are the two main ones.
Yeah, very cool.
Thank you so much. My question is around the clarity part. How often do you feel like you revisit that framework to just be around to reestablish clarity? And do you have even a framework for that process you would share?
Yeah, I do have a few frameworks. 80/20 is one of the models I use. 20% of your efforts lead to 80% of your results, and vice versa. Um, 20% of your clients lead to 80% of your results, and then you take 80% of that, 20% of 20%. So imagine you have 20% here, right? It leads to 80% of your results. If you take 20% of that 20%, that's 4%, leads to 64% of your results. If you take 20% of that 20% of the initial 20%, that means 1% tends to lead to 51.2% of your results. So that's one way to identify what to focus on. So for us, what we did is we looked at our clients in each business and we tried to identify what's the 1% of clients that generate 50% of the results. How can we get more of those clients? Because I spent about 3 to 4 months this year focusing on giving like a lot of value in book cleaning groups on Facebook and other like niche groups, like business owner groups, and I got almost no results for our print shop. So I realized, okay, I'm focusing on the wrong type of person. we're the 1% type of clients in my business. How can I get more of those? So that's one way. You can also apply the 80/20 to every aspect of life. And then I do it about every 90 days or so, sometimes every week, right? I try to remind myself, okay, what's the main goal? What am I trying to accomplish? Because it's really easy to just take a path that's not taking you to the main goal. But there are other frameworks like that. 80/20 I use often, explore, exploit, meaning like, is this time to buckle down and really exploit and optimize this, or are we still unclear what's the thing that works? We need to explore more stuff. Is that how?
Hi, thank you for this presentation. My question is, you mentioned, right? Okay, you mentioned list, who do you do a list from?
There are a lot of list brokers out there. One that comes to mind right away is DataZap, DataZap, DADAZAPP, I think, .com. Their pricing is decent and it doesn't have a minimum. A lot of the list brokers require you to spend $750 or $1,000. DataZap has a $105 minimum, so way better. And you can get the mailing address. You can get all kinds of lists. You'll see when you go there on the left after you set up an account, they have a lot of different types of lists and a lot of relevant stuff for real estate brokers. So I would check that out. That's probably the best way for investment. But there are tons of other lists. If you try it and you won't like it, just go find another data broker. There are tons of them.
Does anybody else have any questions for Ms. Delia? I just have a comment. I love the lumpy, you called it the lumpy mail campaign. It was super smart. I'm glad you're not fully focused on real estate because you would monopolize this town and there'd be nothing left. So, thank you so much to Delia. Oh, I'm sorry, wait, is there another question?
I have one.
Okay. I found this.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, the lumpy mail sounds great, but I was surprised when I said I really liked it. That appealed to executives. I would have thought it's the opposite.
Yeah, so what happens is, if you're trying to get to someone like an executive, someone who's higher up in the company, it's much easier. It's still gonna get to their assistant or a person that works for them, but because it stands out, there's a much higher chance of the assistant passing it down to the executive or the person you're trying to talk to. So that's kind of how it works, because you end up calling saying, "Hey, did you get it?" And because it's something unique, you always want to put something in there that makes sense. You could even throw in a gift card, something that would make them keep it and pass it down. So there's a lot of psychology behind it, but it makes you stand out. And at the end of the day, that's the first step. You cannot make a deal. You cannot have a conversation unless the person's willing to have the conversation. The lumpy mail opens the door for a conversation. That's just one way. But you just think of ways, right? How can I get to the person I want to talk to? And what are some creative ways? And if you have a person that you want to talk to, there's this concept of the Dream 100, 100 people you want to connect to. Go after them and try a lot of different things. And you will get enough people on that list to make it worth your time. Even if you get 10 of the 100, that's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars of business for you. But go after them. Don't just send one email. Like send a few different things and a gift and I don't know, a brownie and something else, because you're going after very like high value people that can make you a lot of money. That's kind of it was. For us, it was a lot easier because we went after school districts. So we just had to get to the person who makes a decision on buying print stuff. But if you're going after an investor or anything, any other type of person, this takes too long.
A great answer. I have one more question. It seems like a lot of it, a lot of your business client is focused on the marketing and improving the marketing of the business. So how can you identify businesses that will be most affected by marketing and increasing, like you buy a business and you do marketing to increase the revenue? which businesses are good for that, and how do you identify businesses that would be good for that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I go after businesses that are cash flow positive. So I use SBA loans for both businesses I purchased and I have partners. I actually wasn't the person who guaranteed the loans in either one of them. It was my partner. I just brought in money from other investors. My second deal, I don't think I put anything down. It was investors and yes, family members, but investors. She invested everything. So I went after cash flow businesses, meaning if the business makes $20,000 in profit per month, I shouldn't have to pay more than 10,000 in to service the debt. It's ideal if you pay less. A good cleaning company, I can tell you, it's our loan is about 5,000, and we're making more per month. So it's a profitable business. So you go after businesses where when you look at the numbers, it's already cash flow positive. And if you have any way that you can improve it, of course, it's going to be great. I knew I have a little bit of a marketing background and I knew I can probably improve this business. But actually, in the first 12 months, I just have to work on the people in the business, like firing the wrong people, hiring new people. So you have to probably, if you buy businesses, you're going to develop other skills you don't even realize you need. But that's a good point, right? Go after businesses that you might be able to improve, but know that you will probably have to work on other issues that you did not even realize were issues with development.
Right, thank you.